A few years ago, I remember I had the opportunity to live in China, and on one of my first weekends there, a student invited us to go and explore some of the cool places in the city. And I remember we were really excited about going with them, so we went and we looked at all the fun sites. But about halfway through our day, the student said, unfortunately, he had something else he had to do that day, but he said that we could just get on the bus when we were ready and we could go back to our school. Well, we thought that that would be easy, but unfortunately, since we were so new to the area, we got off on the wrong bus stop and then we were completely lost. And I remember we didn't have good cell service and we had no idea where we were, and we're in a completely new country, and it was a very scary experience to feel so lost in a new place. And so I remember a few months later, my family actually came to visit me in China, and they also were in a new place. So the way I decided to start out their tour was simply by giving them a walking tour of the school where I would work at. And I remember before we dove into any of the particulars or got into the details of different things, I just wanted them to have a general overview of the land so they could feel comfortable and excited about where they were. And I think as we approach Scripture, we should take a very similar path. You see, most of the New Testament is something that we call an epistle. An epistle is just a Greek word which means letter. And so when we read the New Testament, we're not reading theology papers. We're reading theology that's communicated in the form of letters or through relationships. And so God is using people, often like the Apostle Paul, to communicate what he wants to say and to help them with their various needs in the form of a letter. And so what I want to challenge you to do is, just as if you were to get a letter in the mail, what you would do is you would sit down and read the entire letter in one sitting. And so as we approach the book of Colossians, I don't want us to begin by just finding a particular verse that we like and highlighting it and trying to memorize it this week. I want us to read the entire book in its entirety. And not only that, I want us to read the entire book repeatedly. I remember that back in college, I had a professor that told us that before he would teach on any book of the Bible, he would read that book 50 times. And I remember when he said that, we all kind of laughed and thought, no way, you got to be kidding. And he was like, no, I'm serious. Before I teach on any book, I'll read it at least 50 times. And for him, he said that when he would read it 50 times, he would get a general sense of like the flow of the book. He could understand the audience that the author was speaking to and kind of the main arguments that he was trying to make and how everything fit together. And for you, I'm not asking you to read it 50 times, but I would like for you to read the entire book every day, one time for a week. Therefore, you're going to read the entire book 7 times before we even begin. And what I think is that as you do that, you will also get a good sense of the land. You will understand the general flow of the book and how a few different things work together. And that repetition will build familiarity. And if you're really scared about that, like I've never read a book of the Bible in its entirety, I want you to know that the book of Colossians, if you were to put it on a Word document, you could fit the entire thing in 2 pages. And if you read it out loud, which is the slowest form of reading, that you could read the entire book in about a little over 12 minutes. So I want to give you a challenge this week. I want you to read the book of Colossians from beginning to end every single day. So you're going to read it 7 times in one sitting. And then next week, we're going to come back and I'm going to continue to give you some more skills so that we can get into the details for each part of the book.